Today, I would like to invite Kalpesh Pathak. Kalpesh Pathak is Senior Vice President, Supply Chain and Business Development at Fiat India Automobiles, Fiat Chrysler Automobiles India Private Limited, a veteran of supply chain and sourcing. Kalpesh, you have the final concluding words. If you can take us through the challenges of managing a global supply chain and the transformation that you're seeing there.
Okay, thank you, Girish. And first of all, I would like to congratulate ISCM for coming up with this event at a very pertinent time. And all along since 3 o'clock when we started this event, I think I was going through each and every session. And one thing which I found was that everywhere the thought process is same. So we have learned our lessons very well, industry to industry. It could be slightly different, but if we look at the core, I think we all keep talking the same. Now, morning only, Girish, I was speaking to you, and we were just chatting that should I start with the presentation or like should be extempore. And I was knowing since I am the last speaker, I think a lot of things which I wanted to say, or all of the things which I wanted to say, I think already have been said by all the panelists or speakers, and I don't disagree anymore. In fact, while Vivek was presenting, I was thinking about a topic which I would like to cover, not to repeat, but I think Vivek also touch upon. But yes, that's my favorite topic, so I'll touch upon. But before I start, I think we have seen the kind of disruption which we never thought of in our life, and we will never see again, that I'm sure. Thank God. Now, we all know while everything, all supply chains were disrupted, I think today through the platform of ISCM and SCM Pro, it will be unfair if we don't recognize the efforts and salute the supply chains and the people who really help us during the pandemic, basically the all essential goods as well as the medical supply chains. So I would really like to congratulate on behalf of all of us to those people who really, in spite of all this scare, I think wholeheartedly supported us to keep us alive. And those who really, while doing this or doing their duties, lost their lives, my sincere condolences to the bereaved family, and we hope that we will be out of this pandemic soon. Now, let me just start with little bit background on automobile. As all we know, both globally as well as in India, I think last 3 months have been a phenomenal run as far as India is concerned. And we don't know because right now on the demand side, there is a huge pull, and that puts a huge pressure on the supply side. Now, today in India, whether it's my company or the entire industry, the whole supply side is under tremendous pressure. But I'm really glad that in spite of huge pressure on the supply side to fulfill that demand, I think everybody is doing their job to support the customer demand, and that's how we see this growth. Now, fundamentally, why the supply side is able to do, I think all the speakers have talked about the interconnectivity and the digitalization. I think auto industry has been a front runner. If I talk about my company, we started or geared up our efforts for digitalization and analytics since 2016-17. And while we went into the COVID situation, we realized that it really helped us, because as we have heard from the previous speakers, the first and foremost thing which Dr. Singh also mentioned in the beginning, that visibility is very, very important. As we know that global supply chains like auto are too complex and there are multiple tiers of supplier. Now, unless we have the visibility of all the tiers, it becomes increasingly difficult and it becomes uncertain. So luckily, we had this infrastructure in place. And second is, from the demand side, we already had a global system which used to connect supplier end-to-end supply chain. So starting from the demand sensing, in the sense whenever the customer orders, it gets entered into the central system which plant can see. And similarly, once the vehicle is built and dispatched, the customer or dealer can see. So I think having such a integrated system really help us. But what we did additionally during this COVID period, that while the demand spike suddenly started, I think it was the time June when we saw that demand is going to pick up, which no one had understood. And as we know that auto is a very cyclical industry, wherein and at the same time it is also very competitive, so costs also have to be taken care. So I think what we did while we went into the situation, the visibility was there, but we set up three uh, control towers, in the sense CFT, which was regularly meeting every alternate day to take stock of the situation and see where it is the most important to do the allocation. So one of the things which really helped us to optimally meet the demand for all our plants was, wherever there were constraints and bottlenecks, we had a strong visibility, and where we put the decision making through a centralized cross-functional teams. Depending on the plant production routines, they used to do the allocation of the parts so that we can optimally utilize our available capacity. At the same time, there is no shortage. Correct? So that was a very important thing which we tried to do. Second thing is, which I wanted to touch upon, which Vivek just touched on. I think it is people. See, visibility, the digitalization, analytics, all this is fine. But I think what helped us during this period and what we tried to do differently, many of you also would have done. But I think, in spite of having all these things, in my opinion, I will try to divide the core fundamentals of supply chain into three pillars. One is the people, second is the digitalization and analytics, and third is the resilience and agility. So I would like to little bit spend more time, because remaining aspects are already being talked about on the people ecosystem. So what we tried to do during this pandemic period is that we really came out with the strong processes to really make sure that the employee morals are kept high. In fact, we not only work very closely with our own employees, but at the same time we try to look at the whole ecosystem, means survive and survive together. So we also were closely monitoring our suppliers, we are closely monitoring our service provider, we were closely monitoring all our contractors, and that really helped us. Now, one is from the pandemic perspective and the health of the people, and to keep their moral high. That is one aspect. While we were in touch regularly through various initiatives and various CFTs to take care of the entire ecosystem. Second is very important aspect, when we stopped around somewhere in end of March. It was last week, 23rd March, I remember clearly. And we started our plants back on 18th of May. So during this period, the survival, especially for the smaller people or smaller suppliers or smaller service providers, it was very important that we have to keep everybody afloat. Otherwise, when the industry comes back, which we are knowing that it will come back at some point of time. So what we did, we made sure that whatever like outstanding payments, their financial viability, if some support is required, we try to give that support and keep them afloat, and which really help us to make sure that when the industry started rebounding, we really could rebound sharply, and we were able to meet the customer demand. Let me tell you, like today our plants are running almost 6 days, because compulsorily we have to stop on 7 days, two shifts. And I think touch wood, we have been utilizing all our capacities in spite of all the bottlenecks. So one is this digitalization helped us. Similarly, resilience and agility also, and like we try to, as I said, that we made these control towers across the three poles which we globally have to get the parts from the overseas. So there we did the allocation and smartly managed and kept our supply chain resilient. Now, this was a short-term thing. Now, on the long-term thing, let me just touch upon that what is really important. Now, if we talk about the resilience, now long-term, so like decentralize the supply chain. Is it possible for a industry like auto? I think no, because we have a very huge capital intensive investments, and it is not possible. Otherwise, the viability and competitiveness of the industry will go away. So now how to go out of that? So here I will little bit touch upon what Dr. Singh spoke about, the Atmanirbhar. Now Atmanirbhar, our definition is not that everything should be produced in India, but I think depending on the whole footprint of the global plants and the global supplier locations, I think how we can make our optimal investment so that in case of like any disruption like this, what we have seen through, the impact would be very less. So we have started from a long-term perspective to work on all those elements globally and trying to see that how we can de-risk, and at the same time, if there is slightly additional investment which will support the resilience objective, I think we can achieve it. Now, one more dimension, I think the thought process in our company, what we have tried to change is, like we all have heard about just in time. So I think now we are like trying to evolve the new thought process, just in time to just in case. So I think we were not knowing about the COVID and it came. So now what all can go wrong, and try to see that how resilient we can become by just thinking all the possibilities. I know 100% solution is going to be impossible, but at the same time, I think to the extent we can come out with our business continuity plans to see that we can try to take care of the various variables in a best manner, I think long term it is going to give us the best benefits. Now, what one thing we have learned in spite of all this, the people side, the resilience side, agility side, and digital supply chain and analytics. In spite of having all this, I think human element is very important. One very important thing which we have learned and we keep learning every day, that every day starts with a new challenge and we need to make real-time solutions. So one best part which you have learned, now let me just give a simple example. Right now we all know, in fact Satish also just touched upon that the freight market has become very uncertain because of the in air freight. The capacities are really reduced because of the all the commercial flights operations have been stopped. Only cargo flights are running, and that has put a huge pressure on that ecosystem. Similarly, on the sea freight market also, I think there are tremendous pressures because of the supply and demand imbalance. Right now, if we talk about like any place where we try to get the material, whether it's a Europe or whether it's a US or whether it's a China, getting a container is become a huge challenge. So I think we need to make our decisions on a real-time basis depending on the situation, and where I think one of my previous speaker mentioned that the relationship management with the stakeholders really helped us to make sure that we get priority from a long-term perspective, and we could avoid any disruption in our supply side, which will make us certain to ensure that the demand side is taken care. So with this, I think in the interest of time, I will try to conclude, but it's a great learning this period. I would say COVID was a great teacher. It taught us a lot of new things which otherwise we would not have learned during our lifetime. And on a positive note, I think, yes, there is a lot of scare about the COVID and what we have gone through, but on a positive side, we, at least personally, I'm convinced, and I would say that I have learned, my team has learned a lot, and that is going to remain a foundation for a long-term success of our company as well as the industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Kalpesh. That was indeed fantastic. Just in case to just in time to just in case. Looking at the being prepared, a stitch in time saves nine, as the old English saying goes. Being forearmed is forewarned is forearmed. Yes, we have these things, but it is interesting to see how you have used all of these to actually walk the talk. There's one question which one Sanchit Singhal has asked: centralization versus decentralization in process and decision making, which one would be more customer centric and suited for the future?
So it depends. See, there is no easy answer to this kind of question because, say, for example, if we are talking about certain decision related to investment, correct? It
Yes.
depends on the company policy, correct? Whereas
Yes.
if you talk about purely operational issue, let me tell you that right now my team is operating from at least 10 locations. Okay, my different people are spread around. So we have given empowerment to the team that operational decisions they can take. But suppose if we talk about investment for the project, say suppose if we have to invest 20 million or 30 million or 50 million or 100 million, those kind of decisions cannot be centralized. But yes, operational decisions, the decentralization definitely helps. But see, it cannot be taken at the face value. See, it depends on the whole organizational maturity and capability of the team. So there is no 1 + 1 is equal to 2. I think it depends on the whole organizational ecosystem, the capabilities of the team, and how the work culture is there where we can take the calls.
Yeah, thank you. I think that was brilliantly put. Actually, there is no one answer that will fit all situations, and everything is situational. And also, very important that you touched upon is the culture of the organization. Some organizations are central command structure, while others are a more professional structure. So, okay, both are professional, but more distributed or decentralized functions. So it all depends upon the. Thank you, Kalpesh.
Last thing, to the extent whatever system you follow, whether it's a centralized or decentralized, it helps to meet the end customer requirement, it is fine. So eventually the success barometer is decided by how fast you are able to fulfill the demand and keep the customer happy, correct?
Yes. Thanks a lot, Kalpesh. Thanks for taking time out on a Saturday and spending time with us and talking to us.